Go ahead.
By the way, Hugh Freeze.
Yeah,
that's
happening. All but done. Yeah,
that's all but done. I will say this: in addition to that realignment, I think there's a coach at Stanford who moved on because Stanford got left out of this round of realignment, right? And they fit the Big Ten more than the schools almost that went there do because of their academic profile, everything that they do. But they got left behind in this round because right now nobody's going to the games. There's no excitement around Stanford football. And the other thing about Stanford, and I think this really hurt David Shaw, is you cannot be the school who claims to be the best at everything, and they are. I'm not saying they're not. They're the school. Like when you think about the school that does everything, that has Ivy League level athletics and D1 level sports and wins championships and competes and is always there, the front door of what most people see can't be that bad.
No,
and
did you see the stadium?
Yeah, it's empty.
Oh, it's worse than any other thing I've ever seen before.
Football is less important at Stanford than it is at most places, but it's still really important.
Yeah.
And I think that's what got David Shaw.
You respond to it, and then I'm going to go down a list of other coaches who have been either changed, fired, or what.
Yeah, that's what we need to do. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Stanford needs to figure out what they want to do because I don't know the situation there, obviously personal level, but you hear plenty of people who seem to know people or have been there before who do talk about, like, I'm not sure how much they really want to be, like competitive and in this kind of deal. So figure that out, Stanford. Figure that out. I actually think like a Dave Aranda would be a great coach at Stanford.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And at the same time, though, I don't know that, that's going to be competitive enough for him ultimately. I think that like on the surface, like the characteristics and whatnot, it'd be a perfect spot for him. But I just don't know if they're going to be as into it as he would probably want them to be. But yeah, that's a very interesting opening. So let's get to the openings and get to all of them. And to be clear on the Hugh Freeze thing, you're talking about him going to Auburn.
Yes,
that's
from Liberty.
Now,
yeah.
Okay.
Which is all but official. I haven't seen it official. Some of you in the chat room, but also on some other reporters who also covered coaching change.
Yeah, and I did see this before you go on that list because Max Olson just mentioned this. This is a tie-in to people we know, but Evan Cooper, no surprise, expected to join Matt Rule in Nebraska.
And Scott Satterfield, who's at Marcus Satterfield at South Carolina, they just turned it on. How about them the last couple of weeks? There's a report that he's going to be the offensive coordinator there. Rule did not say anything official. He kind of mentioned what he was going to do. He had not even talked to the current staff. There's a lot of push about them wanting to keep Mickey Joseph, but that's going to depend on the fit and also personalities. Matt Rule's normal thing is to go in and bring almost everybody that he's known at some place, Temple or wherever, Carolina, and also at Baylor. Willie Fritz, there was a report over the weekend about Georgia Tech. He negated that today or knocked that down today. They have a game to play in a conference championship game. Would not surprise me if Willie Fritz is not involved in somebody else's program next year because of what he's done. But he denied that today, saying he's focused on the game, and maybe that's just to get through this week.
Well, and you wonder like where he'd land now at this point because there's not a lot of jobs as
Georgia
open.
Tech was,
Georgia Tech was a rumor, but if it's not there, then where else is he going to go? Is what I'm saying. But regardless, nice win by Tulane. Granted, it looks a little different when Luke Fickell bolts Cincinnati like directly afterwards, but still a good win for the Green Wave over the Bearcats.
Okay, of coaching,
tough exit for Cincinnati as they start to get ready for Big 12 play.
Cincinnati's Fickell on his way out, they lose. Arizona State, who was it?
Oregon.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm talking about coaches. Dillingham's going to Arizona State. That's one of the stories.
Oregon lost.
But other coaches who were rumored to be thinking about other jobs is what I'm looking at. No, the head coach at Oregon was not.
No, but Kenny Dillingham was.
I know that. I'm talking about head coaches who were rumored to be looking elsewhere. Ole Miss lost, right?
Yeah.
They got beat as well. There was another pretty big name that lost.
Hugh Freeze.
Hugh Freeze. Obviously, Liberty was upset over the weekend. So Dillingham is headed to Arizona State. Tulsa. This is a sad story for us. We know him. He's a great dude. And Philip Montgomery, longtime Baylor offensive coordinator, was at Tulsa 8 years, had kind of an up and down at times, some great moments, and also 5-7 despite beating Houston. He's been fired at Tulsa. Jake Spavital, we've had him on the show from Texas State, 4 years. He is out. Marcus Arroyo, 5-7 UNLV, had a lot of injuries this year. He was fired today by UNLV, and our buddy up in Vegas, Phil Benzer's not real happy about that. So there's Dion, been offered, confirmed he was offered to take the job at Colorado. Doesn't mean he will, doesn't mean he'll talk to them, but he was offered the job.
I don't think that's a fit. But I mean, I think he'd do a good job. I just don't think that for his personality, Colorado's a fit. But you never know. I also
could be for a year or two until somebody else comes calling.
Yeah, exactly. And another one, the assistant firing that happened today. Daryl Dickey, offensive coordinator at A&M, is out, which is significant in that if Jimbo Fisher wants to keep his job past next year, he's got to let loose of the reins. And I doubt you would, fire Daryl Dickey if you weren't doing that. But then again, it could all be window dressing. Jimbo Fisher can bring somebody in and tell him he's got play calling, but he's going to have to not run over and
going to have to let it
let
go.
him do. Yeah.
Just like, by the way, on the Luke Fickell, this is what I was going to remember about Luke Fickell. Luke Fickell wants he is new. He's new blood to them. One of the things I read column after column after column about Luke Fickell and how there are so many people that wanted, again, the dark cloud of Barry Alvarez, who did a great job at Wisconsin as a coach and then the AD, of wanting to get new blood and get away from what has been this Barry Alvarez run Wisconsin program, even when he was no longer the coach and or even with the university. All right, we got a couple of quotes later.